Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech. Good to see you guys again, and I'm here with my comparison between the Redmi 10X Pro 5G and the Mi 10 Lite 5G. Now let's quickly talk pricing here with these phones. 2,300 RMB, around 324 US dollars, and 2,500 officially now in Hong Kong dollars, which is, guess what? Around $325. So we're talking identical pricing for these two phones. And I think the main question here is that this Mi 10 Lite 5G is now global with that Snapdragon 765 that is a great chipset, but I truly believe is now second to the Dimensity 820 we see in this Redmi 10X Pro. Now, instead of going down the typical laundry list, I'm going to go down a number of the quick specs that these phones have in common. But then we're going to spend time in three key areas: performance and batteries, cameras, and wrap up with PUBG, because it's in these three categories where I feel one of these phones truly outshines the other, which is the ultimate mid-range release of 2020 from Xiaomi Redmi. Let's have a look. But first, let's get started with the main specs. In terms of design, we're looking at 9mm versus 7.9mm, so quite a bit thicker here, the Redmi 10X Pro. And yes, there's this matte plastic edge versus glossy, but overall, these phones are so similar in design. The only real difference you'll notice if you look at them is the SIM tray placement. It's on the left side for the Redmi 10X Pro, while it's on the bottom here for the Mi 10 Lite 5G. And also the camera placement, you have it centered on the Redmi 10X versus on the left. I prefer this look. I don't know if I like the glossy edges of plastic, and the centered cameras and the very clean Redmi logo just look a lot better. And with displays, we're talking about that same 6.57-inch AMOLED 60Hz display, HDR10 plus capable, with the same bezel size and the same notch layout. These phones are very similar. The one spec that is almost identical on these two phones. Also identical is DRM info and L1 out of the box for both of these phones. More impressive here that this China version does have L1 security level, while the global Mi 10 Lite 5G has it as well. And in terms of audio, we have a single bottom firing speaker on both of these phones. You can see it right here, but a different headphone jack placement. It's on the bottom for the Redmi 10X 5G, which I actually prefer than the on the top version on the Mi 10 Lite 5G. But you see here, both phones have IR blasters. And one thing I'll mention about the SIM trays, it's dual SIMs on the Mi 10 Lite 5G, but it's dual SIM plus SD card support on the Redmi 10X Pro. And so I don't want to spend too much time on the things that are similar about these phones. We're going to talk now about the main area of difference, and that is performance and battery life. Let's start with performance. So I want to show you guys here some of the key benchmarks between these phones, and let's do the performance overview here. We have the Dimensity 820, 8 gigs of DDR4X RAM, and the same UFS 2.1 storage on these phones. Now, earlier this year, the Snapdragon 765G seemed poised to be the top mid-range chip of 2020. And even when I reviewed the Oppo Reno 3 Pro, I was very impressed with the results. And then came the Dimensity 820. And for the price, guys, I think this is one of the most incredible performers on the market. You see it here in Geekbench. There is a slight jump in single core, but in multi-core, we are looking at a far better performance on this Dimensity 820. And in Antutu, it is no different. 402,000 versus 321,000 for the Snapdragon 765. And as you've seen from my numerous Antutu tests, this is the legit score, and this phone barely ever drops below that 390 to 400,000 range. It's just been incredible to see this Redmi 10X Pro sustain its performance and manage to keep these results even after 2 hours of gaming, even after numerous benchmarks. It's incredible. But even more impressive were the storage benchmarks here in Androbench, and these actually surprised me. We see sequential read and write scores pretty similar between the 820 and the 765, but look at these random read and write scores difference. 232, 288 versus 161 and 136. And in SQL Lite, we see an even bigger jump, 4,000 scores, almost 5,000 here versus 1,800, 2,400, and 2,650. And it does translate to daily usage. In the 2 days I've been using this Mi 10 Lite 5G, just like the Mi 10 Youth 5G, which is the Mi 10 Lite Zoom, I had a good experience, but I still did notice the occasional stutter, and the phone is zippy, but it isn't as fluid to the level of what I've seen on this Dimensity 820. There's something about the performance of this phone, especially after you connect it to a 5G network. This thing just flies. And the best thing about it is that it doesn't slow down. It actually keeps that great performance the entire day. I don't feel, guys, much of a difference in daily use from this or a Snapdragon 865. That's how good this chipset is. And here you can see both phones running MIUI 11.0.3, but this is the global version on the Mi 10 Lite 5G, so it's going to have that deep Google integration, multiple language support. That's going to be important, but when it comes just to daily use, I'm still enjoying the performance and experience on this Redmi 10X Pro better than on this Mi 10 Lite 5G. And in battery life is the other big area where I think that this Redmi 10X Pro just takes the advantage. 4,520 mAh capacity versus 4,160 on this Mi 10 Lite 5G. Add to that you have 33 watt fast charging on this phone versus only 20 watt on this Mi 10 Lite 5G, and you just have an overall better battery performer on this phone. But now the other key area of difference between these phones is the cameras. Now you may be saying, but Frankie Tech, aren't these the same OmniVision f1.8 cameras on these phones? And yes, you're right. And on top of that, we have an 8 megapixel telephoto on this Pro version of the phone and an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, while the Mi 10 Lite 5G has an 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel macro, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. So it's much more in line of what we have seen on the regular Redmi 10X 5G, which is coming in at a much lower level than even this Pro version. On the fronts, we see a 20 megapixel selfie camera versus 16 megapixel on the Mi 10 Lite 5G. Both phones capable of 4K 30 FPS. Well guys, I have taken a number of samples with this Mi 10 Lite 5G versus the Redmi 10X Pro, both in daylight, evening, and nighttime shots. Have a look at these samples and let's talk about them when we return. This is rear-facing video on the Redmi 10X Pro and the Mi 10 Lite, coming to almost 5:30 p.m. here in Hong Kong. And it's been a very nice day at the beach. Got a nice tan. Now back at home, coming home. But hit me up in the comments, what do you think? And this is front-facing video on the Redmi 10X Pro and the Mi 10 Lite. and just coming back from the beach. Wonder if I have a tan already. Maybe you can tell. But I hope you guys are doing well, staying safe. And let's hear the mics. Let's see how they sound. Hit me up in the comments. What do you think? So what'd you guys think? I think beyond the shadow of a doubt, this proves to me that this Redmi 10X Pro and this Dimensity 820 image signal processor is doing better with this OmniVision sensor than what Snapdragon is doing. I don't know how to explain it to you guys, but I have pretty much recreated the exact same results of when I tested the Mi 10 Youth 5G. And you would think that both of these phones would have similar results with the same sensor, but that could not be further from the truth. In daylight, I just enjoyed the colors, and the dynamic range was just better on this Redmi 10X. And in low light, I was just stunned at how different these two cameras perform. I had to redo a number of shots just because I could not believe how big of a difference there was between these two phones. And so now we see, guys, that just having the same main sensor and camera on a phone is not enough to deliver the same performance. The Redmi 10X Pro absolutely outclassed this Mi 10 Lite 5G, and the results that I've taken in these past few days absolutely prove it. And here we are, guys, in the PUBG Showdown between the Redmi 10X Pro and the Mi 10 Lite 5G. And if you have a look here at the graphics settings, and if you look here at the graphics results, you will notice something that absolutely shocked me last night. Wanting to play smooth and extreme settings on these phones, and I'm unable to, guys, because the Snapdragon 765G, with all of its capability with the Adreno 620, as of right now, cannot run smooth extreme gameplay here on this phone. And I know a lot of people out there will say, but bro, it's not optimized, it's not optimized. Guys, the Dimensity 820 has been out for far less time than this 765 chipset. And yet it is ready to play smooth extreme settings here in PUBG Mobile. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking I have some beef with Snapdragon or something. I don't. And I really do hope that eventually this phone is able to do smooth extreme gameplay. But for now, you see, this is only available on the Redmi 10X Pro. Okay guys, so I brought in the thermometer here just to keep track of the temperatures, and I've also installed this CPU monitor which will allow us to keep track of the battery temperature and the CPU temperatures as well. So we're going to enable anti-aliasing, disable auto adjust graphics, okay, and let's get started. And it's time for the classic Frankie Tech swim test. Just keep swimming, woo! Oh yeah, and they're swimming good. And at the plane jump, how are we doing? No stutters here on the Mali G57 MC5, and the Adreno 620 is still handling this game. Let's get down to the surface, get some guns, get some action. And I'm on the ground, got some guns, and getting in this car on the Redmi 10X Pro. Here we go. But we're getting shot at on the Mi 10 Lite 5G. Okay, and one kill with fists here on the Mi 10 Lite. But at least I have got some guns now. Let's see if I can get some action now. I see someone there. Take that. Booyah, 2 kills on the Mi 10 Lite 5G. And a very active game on this phone. Take that. 3 kills, baby. And we're really hurting right now. Using the first aid kit. Hopefully I can get a little bit better. But we got to get some kills here on the Redmi 10X Pro. Let's drive around and see if we can find someone. Oh, they just beat me to it. Oh, crap. Oh my gosh, someone already shot me here on the Redmi 10X Pro. Can someone revive me, please? Oh, and it looks like I'm dead on the Redmi 10X Pro. We're having a good game on the Mi 10 Lite 5G. And that is it, man. I'm dead on the Redmi 10X Pro. A poor showing here. Let's go into spectate mode at the very least to keep this CPU working. And let's see how these phones are doing in terms of CPU temperatures. 45 degrees Celsius here on the CPU of the Snapdragon 765. And how is this Dimensity 820 doing? There you see it, guys. 41, 42 degrees. 38 versus 39 battery, so it's a little bit cooler here. But there you see the 765 is at 45 degrees and the Dimensity 820 is much cooler. And honestly, just the fact that you can play extreme gaming here on this Dimensity 820 out of the box in PUBG Mobile and the cooler CPU temperatures. Guys, I don't know how to say this, but this Dimensity 820 is the new ultimate mid-range PUBG gaming beast of 2020. And I know I keep hyping up this chipset, but you see the proof right here. And if you want the best PUBG experience on a mid-range chipset in 2020, look no further than this Redmi 10X Pro. So that's it for this video and my final verdict in this Redmi 10X Pro versus Mi 10 Lite 5G comparison. It really is amazing to think when I reviewed other Snapdragon 765 phones, I thought that was the ultimate mid-range experience of the year. And yet, as we clearly see now, there's no denying that this amazing Dimensity 820 in this Redmi 10X Pro and Redmi 10X 5G series is just better. But it's not just the chipset, guys. This Redmi 10X Pro series is overall the better phone. Yes, they have similar designs, but both have plastic builds, and I prefer that kind of matte edge on this Redmi 10X Pro. In displays, they're pretty much exactly the same, but in the key areas that I've talked about today, in performance and battery, in the camera department, and in gaming with PUBG Mobile, it is just clear that the Redmi 10X Pro is outclassing Xiaomi's Mi 10 Lite 5G at every turn. With near flagship level performance, a 4520 mAh battery that does make a difference, faster charging, better results from the OmniVision OV48B, and smooth extreme gameplay out of the box, I knew when I used the Mi 10 Lite Zoom and now using this Mi 10 Lite 5G that this phone offered great value but just was missing the mark in a number of key areas. All of those key areas have been corrected here on the Redmi 10X Pro, and that is why it is the ultimate mid-range champ of 2020 by far. Now, that's not to say the Mi 10 Lite 5G is a bad phone, and it offers that full Google integration, multi-language support. It is full warranted here in Hong Kong, so I really should want to use this phone over the Redmi 10X Pro, and so I think for the global audience, you'll probably still be happier with this Mi 10 Lite 5G. But honestly, guys, I think I'm still sticking with this Redmi 10X Pro. It is just such a terrific phone, and I can only hope that a global release of this phone comes soon, because it truly is the mid-range champ of 2020, and I think it's gonna be for quite some time. But hit me up in the comments. Which phone of these do you like better? Are you a fan of the Redmi 10X Pro and Redmi 10X series, or do you think the Mi 10 Lite 5G is the better option for you? Hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up. And if you love the content of Frankie Tech, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon for future updates. And do let me know, guys, if you want to see even more in-depth performance tests between these two. So I'll be happy to do it if there is interest. So that's it. A happy Friday to you all. And this is where I leave you by saying, this is Frankie Tech signing off. Have a good one.